Good evening, all of you. Welcome to Code Your Independence. This is Lakshmi, research engineer from Kerala Blockchain Academy. Today we are going to see how a web application can be coded or web application can be built. So this is the first step. It's an initial step for the coding towards this web application. Actually, at this end of this particular session in the YouTube channel, there in the description box there will be a quiz, and the first 50 successful participants or successful people who submitted the quiz will get access towards the course Developer Essential for Blockchain. And in that, you will get a complete experience of full stack development. So please try to do the quiz and get the scholarship. Uh, so so as we already said, in this session, we will be having an intro towards this web application. So what is this web application? What are the components in this web application? And what are things we need to figure out while developing a web application? All these things we are going to see in this particular session. So, let's start the session, and I think I'm audible and my screen is visible to all of you. So, what comprises of a website? That is the first thing we are going to see. We all are dealing with the web application in our day-to-day life, right? In the form of a search engine, maybe a search engine, it may be a social media application, or some form of application. We are dealing with this web applications, right? So, what comprises of these websites that we are seeing? So I'm taking an example here. So Google is a search engine or we all are using, right? All are using Google in a day-to-day basis. So this is the particular website of Google, right? So in this Google, if we are writing something like client and server, client and clicking for search, it will give some results, right? So this is the homepage of our Google. And if you are right click that particular page of Google, and there is an option called view page source, right? If you're clicking that particular option, view page source, you can see the source code of that particular website, Google website, right? So this is the code for particular Google website, and you can see it consists of an HTML code, right? It consists of an HTML part, which consists of head and body part. And for designing, actually use a CSS, and for the more functionalities, we just added a script using JavaScript. We add script to the particular page website using JavaScript for more functionalities of this particular website. So this whole web application just consists of this HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Is this particular whole web application we are seeing just consists of this HTML, CSS, and JavaScript? No, right? It consists of more parts. It website part, the browser part is only the thing we are seeing, or the customer or the user is seeing. It is actually built on HTML, CSS, JavaScript. But a whole web application is not like that. It is something which consists of more components, right? So that is what we are going to see next, right? So let's imagine we are going to build an application. We are going to build a certificate application. I'm familiarizing Ruby. Ruby is trying to build a certificate application. So this certificate application is actually she is building the certificate application so that she can give some details to that particular application related to the certificate. And after giving that particular details to this application, she can get it back. and see it as a certificate. So that is the application Ruby is trying to build. So this is the application Ruby is trying to build. I will show you a demo. So this is the application Ruby is trying to build. There is an page. This is our app front page, and in this page, Ruby can enter details. So there are so much details. You can in the drop down there are so many details. You can related the course. You can select that, and there is a certificate ID. You have to give the certificate ID. You have to give a name, and you have to give a date. And on clicking issue certificate, there is a button called issue certificate in this page. And on clicking this particular issue certificate, this data should be saved somewhere. Okay, this particular data, this blockchain foundation related, the data related to course, data related to certificate ID, information related to the candidate name, all these things should be saved securely. Okay, so securely at some place. It should be saved in such a way that, so let's imagine I am entering these details from India. Okay, and I am clicking the button issue certificate. Okay, certificate is successfully issued. So I'm doing it in doing this particular thing in India. And the web application should be built in such a manner that if someone from some other state or some other country is trying to access this particular web application, and he is searching this particular certificate, searching this particular certificate with this particular certificate ID, and if he clicks this button from some other place, maybe from USA, from other state or somewhere, so he is searching from there, he should be able to see this details. Okay, that the Ruby had populated from India. Okay, this is a type of web application. Web application, most of all the web application work like this, so that we can enter some details to that particular application, and it can give back some details to us, right? Retrieve back the particular details to us. Most of the web application work like this. So based on this particular functionality of that web application, the things may vary. The basic functionality is like we are giving some data to that particular application, and it is getting back some data to us. So this is the web application. So this whole web application, we can't build the whole this particular thing, what I have said, with just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So what else we need for building this particular web application? That is what we are going to see next. So this Ruby, this person is actually trying to build the web application related to the certificate, and she is actually know something about this development, and she know this for building this particular web application, it needs some components. Okay, it needs some components. So one of the component is this. So at the beginning we have seen a page, right? I'll show you once again. This page. We have seen this page, right? This is the front page of this particular of this web application. This is the front page. On this, and this is the issue certificate page where we can enter the details. So there are pages where user can interact with that particular web application. So user can interact, user can enter details, user can enter whatever things they need to that particular web application. And the user, even the particular user is not a computer person, he can understand what he have to enter into that particular website. So this is the user interface part, where the user can interact with the web application. So user know how to interact with this web application. It is not a huge Himalayan task, right? So this part where the user interact with this web application, we call it as the front end. We call it as the front end. So it is something built with HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It is something which is look appealing to the particular person or the user. It should attract, that page should attract more persons, so that more persons can enter, can use this particular web application. It should be user friendly. So that even if it doesn't understand much about how this web application works, he can actually interact with that particular web application in such a way that part should be built. That part we call it as front end. Okay, that is the front end of the web application. So does this web application needs only this front end? No, right? The front end is only one component of the whole web application. There should be some part, some space where the whatever user entered or whatever thing user interacted with this web application should be fulfilled. So you have seen the pages of Google, right? If you are entering something to Google, Google will give the result based on the data you have entered. So if you are searching for blockchain, Google will give the information related to blockchain, right? So there is something there, right? Google, there is something with the Google that here the user interface part and give some result related to that topic, right? So that part is called the server, backend or server part. So there is another component called backend. So backend is not a hardware part, it consists of hardware, but there is a program running on this particular backend. So this program actually listens 24/7 to the particular users. So what particular requests coming from users. So this backend is actually a program, and this particular program is running 24/7, and it is actually listening whether some request is coming from the client. So if from the front end a request is coming, and if it reaches this backend, the backend will process the request. There is a program running. The program will take the request, and based on the particular program written, it will give back the result to the client. So that part is neatly done by the backend. So it will take the result, take the request from the client, and give back the result what the client needs. It doesn't give some result that backend thinks. No, it is not like that. It will take the request from the client, and it will process the request and give the result based on that particular request. So that is actually a program. It is running 24/7 in the backend side. That is, if I am using Google from India, the server or the backend part maybe in USA, America, or maybe in Bombay, or maybe in in Kochi or somewhere. So wherever the server is there, the particular information is served from that particular backend. So backend is a program. So it is actually doing what? On getting a request from the client. On getting a request from the client, the backend will process the request and give back the result to the particular client, so that the client can see the result. And one more thing is there. The server consists of two parts. Server mainly consists of two parts. One is the program. I have already told you there is a program running 24/7, right? So one thing is the program, and another thing is the database. So what is this database? So the client will be sending some data to that particular web application. So that particular data will reach the backend. So this backend is a hardware part. It consists of a hardware part, but it can't store all the data coming from the clients all over the world. It actually make the backend slow, and it is not possible to store all the data all over the world in the backend part. So there should be a space where the data can be stored in a structured manner, in a particular way. So that part, that space is called database. Database do that task, store the data in a particular manner or in a structured manner. So that is the task with the database. So these are the main components of a web application. Main components. It doesn't incorporate all the components. These are the main components of a web application. That is the front end and the back end and the database. So the user, he actually interact with the front end. He is not seeing the back end program, the server running. No, he is not seeing that. So he only sees the front end. He interact with the front end, and he then what send the request to the backend. From the front end, request will be sent to backend, and backend will process the request. One second. So backend will process the request. So let's concentrate more on this front end part. Okay. So the front end is the user interface part. So the user interact with the front end or the browser part of the web application. So the user can see that particular front end part of the web application. He or she can interact with that particular web application, and he can give information. He can interact with this web application right in this particular front end, and the front end will behave in such a way that if we are clicking, there is a next button in that particular website, and the user is clicking this next button, the next page will be loaded like that. It is just like it has got some functionality. So this whole front end part we can do with this HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML is for building the elements, and the CSS is for designing, and JavaScript is for functionality. So does we need only need this HTML, CSS, JavaScript? No. So the HTML, CSS, JavaScript is the functionalities are little bit minimized. So in order to build a huge web page, we need some framework. Sorry. So we need a framework. So React is a JavaScript framework for front end, for the user interface. So React, it actually give a folder structure where the programmer can easily design a web page, and he can actually send data from one web page to another. All these things are possible with this React. React is something which is actually developed by Meta. You all know Meta, the Facebook. So React is actually it's a framework designed by Meta, and it is a popular framework used by most of the web application. Of course, Facebook is using it, Instagram, Amazon, Netflix, all these web applications are using this React. So React is the most commonly used front end part. Okay. So next, we are moving to the backend. So in the backend, I've already told you it is another program. So in the front end, it is actually a type of program with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In the backend also, there is a program running 24/7. Whenever the client is sending request, this program will trigger. This program will take the request, process it, and give back the response. So that is the backend part or the server side part. So this backend program, I already told you it's a program, right? This particular program we can write in any language like Java, JavaScript, PHP, Python, any language we can write this particular backend program. So the backend program is running 24/7 in some. It may not be running in the same machine that like on the client, right? It may be running in some other places or some other country, right? It is not something which is running on the native system. So that is the case with the backend. So now, if we are using JavaScript for our backend part, I already told you we can program this backend with any language we are comfortable, maybe Java, JavaScript, Rust, Python, or any language we are comfortable. So if we are using JavaScript for this particular backend programming, then we need a runtime environment. JavaScript need a runtime environment for programming on the backend side. So that runtime environment is called Node.js. Node.js is the JavaScript runtime environment. Okay, so this we can write the JavaScript, we can use the JavaScript for coding in the backend using this runtime environment Node.js. Node.js is used by most of the web application that use JavaScript on the backend, like Walmart, Udemy, etc. And now, coming to the application, coming to the our web application, we have seen the front end, right? We have seen the front end. So front end can be designed with its HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And we can also use this framework called React. React is not the only framework. We can use some other framework like Svelte, Next, etc. There are so many frameworks. Just take one example called React. So React is a framework, and we can also program. We have already seen about the backend. Backend is also another program. We can write the backend in any programming language like Java, Python, JavaScript, etc. And so there is a backend and there is a front end. So I have already told you front end is something that is working on the user part, right? In the user computer or in the user laptop or in the user mobile phones, right? Backend is not like that. Backend not reside on particular system. It is something that resides with the creator of this particular web application. If we are dealing with the Google, then Google maintains the backend of this whole Google web application. If you are dealing with the Facebook, the server, the Facebook company is maintaining the particular backend or the server part of this particular Facebook web application, right? So the front end part will be on one system, the back end part will be on some other system. So how they are interacting? So they should interact, right? If I am searching for something, or if I am putting some data to that particular web application, it should reach the backend, right? It should interact, right? So there should be an interaction between the front end and backend. So this task is done by the APIs, application programming interface. So these APIs get the request from the client, from the front end, and it will give the request to the backend and will take the result from the backend and give it back to the front end. The whole task is done by the APIs. APIs architecturally it actually resides with the backend, but it actually is an interface that interact with the front end and in turn with the backend. So it interact with both the front end and the backend. So the interface part is done by the APIs. There are the most commonly used APIs are REST APIs. So API actually stands for Application Programming Interface. So we have seen the front end. There is a front end for the web application. There is another program called backend of the web application, and the thing that connects this front end and backend are APIs, right? API is just like if you are just imagine you are going to a hotel and you will there will be a person, there will be a boy that come to take your order, right? So you will tell the order to that particular person or particular boy, and he will go to the kitchen or where the chef is there, and he or she will tell the order to that particular person, right? So the API is that boy or that person. So from the particular client or the customer, he collects the order and give it to the chef. So API work like this. He will collect the request, API collect the request from the client and give it to the server, and take the response from the client server and give it to the client. So the API is the functionality of API is that. And next we are going to see we have seen React is a framework for front end, right? So likewise, there is a library for the backend or the framework for the backend, which actually make the task of programming this backend little more flexible, little more easier. So Express is the library used by Node.js. Express is one of the library for Node.js, for JavaScript programming. If we are using JavaScript for backend programming, so we can use Express as the library or the framework for designing this particular backend, whole backend programming. So many persons are actually doing their backend with this particular Express, like IBM, Paytm, etc. Next comes the database. Data is actually stored in database, right? So server can't store all this overhead, can't store all this data from the client. He can't do it. It may get slow. So there should be a space where data should be stored securely and in a structured manner. So it is actually done by the database. Database actually store the data in a structured and a systematic and a secured manner. So there are so many database like MySQL, Oracle. So one of the most commonly used database is MongoDB. So MongoDB is actually a unstructured or a semi-structured database. That means if we can store, it is actually work like a key value pair. If there is a key, using that key we can get the data, right, like that. So in the case of MongoDB, we can store any type of data as a value across the key. We can store the image, we can store a file, we can store a huge file, we can store the text, anything we can store across this particular key as a value. That is the case with the MongoDB. That is the case of flexibility with the MongoDB. So many clients even uses MongoDB like Google, Toyota, Aadhaar, etc. So we have that particular main components, right? The front end, back end, and the database. So the client is interacting with the front end, and the client is getting the work done, getting the processing of request by the back end, getting the data from the back end. Everything is done using the back end. Back end is another program, and the data storing is done using the database. So a simple web application comprises mainly of these components. Front end part, which is done using the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then the backend part, which can be done using any programming language like Python, JavaScript, etc., and then the database like MongoDB. So here our Ruby has done this certificate app. He have successfully done the particular certificate app, and everything is working on her computer. And suddenly, she gave it to the testing team, or she give that particular application to the client. Suddenly the particular application actually crashed. So what should have happened? Right? It is completely working fine for his or her system. So she had done everything. She had designed the front end. She had done with the back end. She had done with the database. Everything is working finely. But all of a sudden, when she actually delivered that particular product to the particular client or for the testing team, it crashed. So what had happened? So the thing is that the particular system he or she is working is in a particular environment, maybe in a Windows OS, or with a Node.js with a particular version, with the DB with a particular version. So she will be working with the environment on his or her particular system, right? So when the product were delivered to another system, the environment got completely changed. Environment may got completely changed. The client may be running it on Ubuntu system. His Node.js node may be on another version. So because of all these reasons, the particular product crashed, and is actually a very bad news, right? So the whole thing the Ruby has been doing is on wait, right? So is there any solution, right? Is there it's a huge problem, right? Is there any solution for this particular thing, for this problem faced by Ruby? So yes, right? If there is a problem, there is a solution. So there is a solution for this. So containerization is one of the solution for this particular problem. So we are actually keeping the product in a container. That container consists of all the environment. Like if you are preparing a food, if we have an ice cream, there is an ice cream shop, okay, and ice cream should be delivered to some other place. This particular ice cream should be delivered to some other place. Will I deliver it in a small plastic container, or in a plastic carry bag? No, right? Or in a cloth carry bag? No, right? By the time it reaches the particular person, it will all melt down, right? It will get ruined. So what will we do? There will be a box. If I want to deliver, then I have to keep a delivery bag where I can keep the temperature of that particular environment where the ice cream stays to some particular temperature, and we can set the temperature, and inside the bag the temperature is maintained into that some 0 degree or minus degree or something, so that on delivering that particular product to some other person, it will be in the same shape and same size and same quantity, right? So the same case is done here. We are placing the product in a container, and inside the container we are placing the environment needed for that particular product with the OS I have developed, with the particular OS I have developed, with the particular node version I have developed, everything with the whole environment I am giving the product to the client. So the client can run that particular application in this particular environment, not in the environment of the client machine. Right? He is running the machine on the environment where the product is okay to run. Right? So that part is called containerization. That part of the whole programming, whole development side is called containerization. So we can do the containerization with the help of a platform called Docker. Docker is a platform used by most of the web application developers. So with the help of this particular Docker, we can actually containerize the product. With the help of Docker, we can containerize the product. We can keep inside the container. We can keep the OS. We can keep the OS needed for that particular product. We can keep the node version needed for that particular product. So all these things are actually packed inside this container. So Docker will do the task for you. So Docker is actually used by most of this web application like Razorpay, Spotify, etc. So next is the part with we all know this there are so many containers inside this single container of the Docker. There may contain different containers or the different Docker files, and not regarding a single product, this particular backend server may be running in different part of the world. We are imagining each servers running on different part of the world as each containers. So there should be some mechanism to orchestrate these containers. So if the particular server or the particular container in the Bombay, in residing in Bombay, is failed, then the traffic should be redirected to some other place, right? And if the particular API residing is on that particular container is not working, it should be redirected. It should be orchestrated to some other place. That orchestration also should be maintained. We have to deal with this particular orchestration part. It should be done in an automated manner. We can't manually we can't place a person. We can't hire a person and say your job is to manage these containers. If one particular server having more traffic, you have to give the traffic to some other container. No, it can't be done by a single person. So the orchestration should be done in an automated manner. We should orchestrate this whole container thing in an orchestrated manner. Right. So this orchestration should be done, right? With this containerization, with this orchestration, the problem faced by Ruby can be solved. So the Ruby has faced the problem that the client, while she delivered the product to the client, or she delivered the product to the testing team, the particular product crashed, right? So if after the knowing about Docker, she actually containerized the whole product and give that particular container to that particular client or the testing team. Now there is no worry about what is the environment the client using, what is the environment the testing person is using. There is the Ruby doesn't have to worry about that. So the client, if he is running that particular thing, he is running in that container. The environment is present in that particular container. The product will work smoothly in that particular container. There won't be any crashing of that particular product. So now actually Ruby become happy. Ruby became somehow happy. The client actually was convinced with this particular product, the certificate app. So here Ruby was happy with the product. And then, so I told you this is the figure of this containerization. So the front end actually becomes a container. Everything we place it as separate containers. Front end will be a container, back end will be a container, database will be a container, back end itself maybe multiple containers. So the orchestration is actually done to manage all these things, manage all these containers, Orchestration is done actually to automatically manage all these containers. Okay. The trafficking of this backend, everything can be managed using this orchestration. One of the tool we can actually use for orchestration is Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is one among them. So okay, client was satisfied, testing team was satisfied with the particular product, but Ruby is not that much satisfied, because she actually want to make this UI part a little more appealing for the users. And also there is some issues with the backend part, some issues with the board. It crashes when some bot actually you actually trying to hack this particular backend code, or the backend from the backend code, someone can hack and get the data. Some hacking problems actually occurring in this backend code, and Ruby is not that that specialized in the backend. And there is a friend of Ruby, and he is actually want to help Ruby. Max is the backend developer, and he know how to deal with all the security issues. So he actually want to help Ruby, but how can he do that? How can he actually help Ruby? Ruby is working on her project on her computer. So how can Mac collaborate with Ruby? Uh, so, uh, without some tools, it is actually a big task. He can actually get the data manually from Ruby system to Mac system by using some external devices. Even if he get the code from Ruby, there will be a mismatching. Ruby is correcting the code in her computer. Max is correcting that same thing in his computer, Mac's computer, and there may occur clash. So there are so many problems faced by Ruby and Mac with collaborating, right? So there comes another tool or another platform that actually again helps Ruby. That is the Git. The Git is a version control system. Git is the most commonly used version control system. Version control system means that manages and keep track of all the things happening on that particular software. The who is changing the code, which version of code is this? Is there anyone who is trying to change the code who have no access to that particular code? Everything is managed by this version controller. So this version control actually maintains the history of all these things. Okay. So I've already told you, Git is the most commonly used version control system. So with the help of Git, anyone can collaborate around the world. If I want to collaborate with a programmer in Europe or UK, I can do it using this version control system Git. Yeah, yes, right. So if you are familiar with Git, you have the experience, right? So collaboration, a high level of collaboration is actually possible with the help of Git, and Git was actually pioneered by the Linus Torvalds, by created by Linux. And there are so many benefits like branching, merging, collaborating, so many benefits actually for Git. If you are a beginner, just try to explore this Git and see what can this Git do. If you have a problem, if you you can actually add your programmer friend as the collaborator. He can what do something with the code. And if you want to give the code to some other place, you can just put it on Git, the and give your dashboard ID, and he can view it. There are so many advantages for using this version control system. And there is one more thing called GitHub. It is actually a dashboard. So Git is the main thing. GitHub is actually a dashboard. So dashboard means where I can see all my projects. So Git is where I can create a project. I can add collaborator. I can create the branches, everything. GitHub is where it is a dashboard where we can neatly see our project. We can neatly see our code. We can neatly see our collaborators. We can neatly see what are the happenings, history of this particular project. Okay, GitHub is a repository. Most of the persons who are using Git actually using GitHub as the desktop version. So this whole thing actually forms the final web application architecture. So we can say this is the whole architecture of a web application. So web application consists of a front end, back end, and a database part. User actually interact with the front end, and the back end is there to give whatever things needed for the front end, and the data is actually stored in a database. And for the programmer, all these programming can be made easy with the help of version control tools like Git, and with the cloud thing. Code storage can be done using the cloud. The hosting can be done using the cloud. This is the final architecture of a web application. Okay. So you have seen a web application. You got an idea. You got an architecture of a web application. What it comprises of. Okay. Google. I'm interacting with the front page. Actually, I'm interacting with the front page of the Google. Now you know it is the front end, right? It is the front end. And if I am entering something into that particular search and clicking the search button, it is getting the thing to me, right? If I'm writing blockchain and clicking search, it is getting me the details related to blockchain, right? So it is actually getting it from some other place, right? It is not getting any information stored in my computer. It is not getting any information stored in my browser. It is actually getting the information stored in some other place called server or backend, right? Now you know the component called backend. So backend do all the tasks for all the backend tasks. The user doesn't worry about this thing. So backend will do the background task, right, for the web application. And now comes the database where data are stored and maintained in a secured manner. And these all things can be containerized since it doesn't crash in some other system, and this whole containers can be automated with the help of orchestration like Kubernetes, and all this coding part for the developers, it can be made easy with the help of version control system like Git and GitHub, right? So this comprises of a normal web application. If you are actually trying to learn about web application, this is the architecture of a whole web application. So, I'm now going to give you a small introduction, small intro towards a new technology here. And before going to that, so here this is actually I just familiarized you, right? Familiarized you towards this whole development of web applications, right? Now you got an idea what is happening, right? Now you can actually go and code. So there is a huge opportunity here, and in the YouTube description there will be there will be a quiz available for you, and for the first 50 successful submissions, we are giving a course which actually serve the purpose of full stack development. The course actually worth about around 4,000, and the name of the course is Developer Essential for Blockchain, and this particular course will actually give a journey through this full stack development part, the front end, back end, database, GitHub, etc., Docker, etc. Okay, so if you are interested in the web development, uh, go and use this particular opportunity. It is for free for first 50 contestants, and others will get an offer for this particular course. So we have seen the web application. So I want to introduce a new topic to you, that is the blockchain. So here you have seen a web application, right? So let's imagine. I have already told you this backend part is not in the client system. It is actually maintained by the particular application. If it is the application of Google, it is actually maintained by the Google. If it is an application of Instagram, the server is actually maintained by the Instagram, right? So the backend is actually maintained by the particular the owner of that particular web application, right? So there is a thing called centralization in this area, right? The backend, the company actually manages all these things. The whole power is under the hands of that particular company, right? So this is a type of centralized web application. So now we are actually we have entered into a Web3 era. Actually, it is an era of decentralization. So we can introduce this decentralization into web application using a component or using a new technology called blockchain. So blockchain is actually a new technology that actually come along with Web3. So we can have decentralization in Web3 using this particular ever evolving new technology called blockchain. So the user here, there are components like user. I have already told you there is a front end, the server part, a database, and the server is not a centralized server. It is actually replaced by blockchain, which is actually a decentralized network. So now the request is not in the hands of a central server. It is actually managed by an external network, external decentralized network. So we doesn't have to worry about the power in one hand problem. So here is where the blockchain actually fit. Blockchain is on the backend part. So in the backend part, blockchain actually used for decentralizing this particular web server, or actually we are or if we are if we are not replacing the server with a blockchain, so even without replacing the server, there are advantages of using blockchain. We can actually introduce transparency into that particular application. We can actually introduce decentralization. We can actually introduce more and more and facilities like tokens, NFTs into this particular application by using the concept of blockchain. So that is the case. That is the case with blockchain. So if you so we I've already told you we are from Kerala Blockchain Academy. So if you are interested in learning about this particular new technology, we are actually planning to call a student internship program on blockchain. So you have with the help of this developer essential for blockchain course, depth course, you can know how to it is actually a middle intermediary course. You will get a complete idea of how to develop this particular whole web application, or get an idea about the full stack development of the web application. And after that, you can confidently come to this particular internship program, where we will teach you how you can integrate this particular blockchain into your web application and make it in a decentralized manner. So that is the case with this particular the blockchain. This is where the blockchain fits, and so I think we come to the end of the session. We have come to the end of the session. So we have seen about the web application, normal web application, the components of the web application, the needed things with the web application, and we end with the new technology where you can, if you are interested, you can explore more about this particular new technology. If you want to be the part of us, you can be with us with the internship program. And so that is all with the today's session. And I think if you have any questions, you can ask. Please be free to ask if you have any questions with this particular session, or any questions with this internship program, or any related to this session, you can ask. Okay, you can put it on chat also. Okay, I think you are okay with this. So go and crack the quiz given on the YouTube description, and get the free tickets towards this developer essential for blockchain. It of course will help you in developing the full stack of this whole web application, and be the part of us. We are happily welcoming you to the internship programs. We happily welcome you, and we will teach you how you can integrate. It will give you an edge towards the IT industry. Of course, it will give an edge towards this IT industry. Teach you how to integrate this blockchain into this particular web application. So I think that's it. We have reached the end of the session. So, so I forgot to wish the Independence. So happy Independence Day to all of you. So happy to be here. To see you all. Bye. Thank you.